What's going on, football fans? It's Diggs Report right here. And look, I got Ahmed Ghafir with me. I guess that means we're talking about recruiting, right?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Hey. So last year we did this, and we're going to change it up a little bit. We're going to do this in two videos. This is the first one, which is national, and then we're going to go Maryland with the second videos. After this video, please make sure to check out the Maryland video. And along with that, what we're going to do is we're going to taking a look at individual classes, and we're just going to do an overview of what's going on. So without further ado, let's just quickly glance over the top 10 recruits from this class.
Yeah, we'll start with Collins Hill, five-star cornerback, Travis Hunter, who shocked the entire country, flipping from Florida State to Jackson State. I know
more on that later.
Yeah, that was a pretty big one. Walter
Nolan, who technically the first one was Quinn Ayers before he reclassed, but Walter Nolan was the first 2022 recruit that I took a look at for Sports France.
Yep. East St. Louis, five-star wide receiver, Luther Borden, spurned a lot of the top elite blue blood programs and opted for Missouri. So that's a big commitment for them. I believe that's one of the highest commitments in Missouri program history.
Yeah, that was. Defensive lineman Travis Shaw from North Carolina stayed in-state, committed to North Carolina.
Yeah, that was a big one. Clemson was a big player in that recruitment. Number 5 player in the country, Harold Perkins, 5-star linebacker out of Texas. He's the top unsigned player right now. I got the crystal balls going to Texas A&M, who's on an absolute tear right now. So that's a big name to know heading into February.
Yeah, Perkins is going to be committing at the Under Armour All-American game, and Texas A&M, they could have 4 of the top 10 recruits when it's all said and done. Another one that they have, Evan Stewart, wide receiver from Texas, did another analysis on him. Very high on this guy.
Yep, and the next one is Damani Jackson, 5-star corner out of Mater Dei. He took a lot of headlines out of Alabama, Ohio State, a couple others. I know LSU at one point was kind of in the mix for him, but USC was able to, once Lincoln Riley got on board, able to keep a big 5-star at home. Checks in at 7.
At number 8, we have Jeremiah Alexander, edge from the state of Alabama. And of course, he committed and signed with Alabama. This is the one I am very, very high on.
Yeah. And then checking in at number 9 is coming out of Florida, 6'6", 272-pound defensive end, Shamar Stewart, extremely explosive player. Yeah, like I said, checks in at number 9.
And number 10 is interior offensive lineman Devin Campbell out of Texas. Right now, Texas has the favorite, but we'll see what happens at the end of this. And top storyline going into signing day, or coming out of signing day, well, the early signing period, was Travis Hunter shocking everybody, flipping from Florida State to Jackson State. It's just nuts what Deion Sanders has done with that program. I mean, he got the number 1 JUCO player last year, and now he gets the number 1 overall recruit this year. That's just insane what he's doing, and he's also winning at Jackson State.
Yeah, I mean, it's on the surface, when you think of Florida State to Jackson State, you kind of wonder, why would Travis Hunter do that? But then when you kind of think that he gets a chance to be coached by Deion Sanders with obviously the coaching staff in place, and I guess when you kind of look at it after the fact, maybe you realize maybe Travis Hunter's his value is significantly more at Jackson State than it is at Florida State. Florida State, he'd be the cornerstone, the face of a rebuild. So, but definitely a monumental, historic flip in college football. So that's was undoubtedly the top storyline of the day.
And Hunter may be listed as a corner, but this guy could also be a top flight receiver. It's just that people see him more as a corner than a receiver, but nothing really shocked me with him. This kid is so talented.
Yeah, he's a freak. I just saw insane highlight as a receiver, actually, and one-on-one on the offensive side. Just did a really good job high pointing the ball and punched it in for a touchdown at the end. So he's a explosive player. Will be in the NFL in 3 years.
Definitely. I think another big storyline is the fact that Luther Borden, who was the top receiver and top 3 overall recruit, signing with Missouri, and he's not even from the state of Missouri. That just goes to show you, 1, how much he liked Missouri, and 2, how good Missouri has been in recruiting this year, because it's not just Borden. I mean, they have 16 commits, half of which are blue chip prospects. That's just amazing what they've done this year.
Yeah, I don't know historically about where Missouri kind of ranks, but finishing at 13th in the 24/7 Sports team rankings, get a chance to pull in 1 5-star, 8 4-stars. So definitely punching above their average clip. So that's the type of talent you need to be able to bring in, reel in when you play in the SEC in order to take that next step. So, but definitely a big win on the trail for that coaching staff.
Mm-hmm. And right now we're looking at the top recruiting classes, and really my favorite recruiting class has been Texas A&M. I mean, Texas A&M, first of all, they had a good season. They beat Alabama. Second of all, like I said, they could finish off with 4 of the top 10 recruits. They're just killing it in recruiting this year. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Texas A&M a few years when these kids develop.
Yeah, Jimbo Fisher, got a chance. He built a winning program at Florida State. Took the Texas A&M job because they gave more availability for resources and lot more, just availability to get what he needs in order to remain successful, especially in the SEC. So I think it's kind of all coming together for this program now. Was able to really do a good job of closing down the end of that cycle, and did a really good job even recruiting the Northeast. Elijah Robinson, that defensive coordinator, does a really good job. He has really good touch in this area, so not overly surprising, but definitely necessary and impressive for Jimbo and co.
Okay, I told you my favorite. Med, what's been your favorite class? And you cannot say Maryland.
It's kind of, I don't know. I guess if you had to go with one, you always kind of look at Bama and you realize just with the talent that they bring in, year out. 24 of their 23 of their 24 commits are 4-star prospects. I thought Kentucky did a pretty good job this year. Was able to keep for the 5-star tackle in the fold over Michigan State. And like we mentioned, Missouri is another, Stanford is another. Was able to reel in 6 5-star, 4-star recruits. Normally a school that doesn't bring in a massive class year in, year out. This year was obviously a little bit on the higher end with 22 commits, but thought that was, David Shaw and co. Especially with their academic requirements, it's not always easy to attract always the same level of talent throughout. So definitely impressive for them to do that. And then Michigan State, I do think they're to be able to punch in a top 20 recruiting class coming off this season, second year under Mel Tucker, first full season in my eyes. But definitely Spartans have kind of made themselves a force to be reckoned with, I think.
Okay, for those of you that don't know, we are looking at the 24/7 Sports Composite, but they are ranked as a top 20 class on 24/7 Sports' own rankings. Those are 2 different rankings for those that don't know. Some classes that really shocked me. One thing definitely has been Kentucky, Missouri, Oklahoma holding on to theirs. But Indiana being able to get a top 20 class with the year that they had, they were the second worst team in the Big Ten. And there could be an argument they were the worst team in the Big Ten. But the fact they pulled a top 20 class, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, but I think when you look at the year prior to that, you kind of look at what Indiana's done even before that, these last couple of years, especially on offense, they've been able to show what they're capable of. So then, when you're Tom Allen, you're able to obviously this offseason be extremely transparent, took the pay cut and said, we weren't up to our own standards. So when you kind of think of having that down year, having the immediate playing time to sell, and saying, hey, look, we've done it before. We know how to do it again. Now this is why we're recruiting you to fill X, Y, and Z. I think that's what really helps.
All right, last thing, the class most disappointing for me, it's actually 2, and they're all the way down here, Miami and Florida. And this goes beyond the coaching changes because they were having problems recruiting even before their head coaches got fired. They got to get it together in the transfer portal, and they got to hope they have a good class next year because, this is extremely disappointing right now with those 2.
Yeah, I'd say Florida's understandable, but at the end of the day, you have to remember that, when Billy Napier comes in, he had just about a week and a half to really close this out. So I think, while I understand, leading up to it, it's tough to, Florida's obviously underwhelming on the recruiting show. I think Billy Napier, when you get a chance, that's why I know 24/7 Sports, they got a chance to add in like overall team rankings where it factors in transfers, things like that. And that's where I think it's a team like Florida where they need that immediate help.
Yeah.
And obviously where, when you're not able to bring a full class and, heading into February, there are going to be a lot of people that they're bringing in just to help fill spots. So I think when you kind of look at that, and Billy Napier has shown that he can be very successful on the recruiting trail year in, year out. So I think with that other elevated opportunity at Florida, I think they'll be okay. But Miami, and again, I wouldn't say that they're exact same situation, just because Miami really made that situation that it didn't need to be. But I would agree. I think Miami's kind of been recruiting at this level for, you could really say, a couple of years now. It's been a lot of buzz. So definitely not surprising. I think when you kind of look at the Big Ten, a lot of those teams were definitely up there. But I think Oregon, when you see them at 48, they're usually a team that sits top 10, top 15 throughout under Mario Cristobal. And obviously they went through the head coaching change, but to see them check in at 48 coming out of the early signing period, I think is a surprise.
Yeah, the difference between Oregon and with Miami and Florida, like I said, Miami and Florida already had a low number of commits, but Oregon had many more commits. It's just that once Mario Cristobal left, that's when the decommits started happening, and they lost a good chunk of their class because of that. But hopefully with the new head coach, they'll be able to rebound again with the transfer portal. That's really what's going to help out a lot of these schools that have these low numbers, and the fact that you also had that extra COVID year. That's why we're seeing a lot of low numbers right here, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I'd say that. I mean, recruiting has just really changed. Like we said, the with the transfer portal, it's just a different type of game now. The way that recruiting goes about getting looked at, it is tougher. So that's why you kind of see the high school classes are a little bit skewed, and then you see a lot more of these transfer additions. You see a lot more fringe prospects that would have maybe gotten offers and maybe have been takes in years past, and now they're getting passed over. So it's definitely been harder to get that Power 5 looks.
Yeah, as this goes on, do you see this trend continuing? Do you see it kind of going back up to where more high school, where it's going to be not as it was before with high school recruiting, but getting close to where it was before, or do you just see it going down and down?
I think it's going to take a couple of years. I mean, with the COVID scholarship numbers and whatnot, it's probably this is gonna game's gonna be affected for the next 3 years or so. So it's definitely going to take a long time to overcome this.
Yeah, you got to feel a little sorry for those high school commits that, I mean, that are probably not going to be able to go Division 1.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. Okay, last thing we're going to do is we're going to each say our top 3 favorite recruits. Only thing is they can't be a Maryland commit or from the state of Maryland, but you can do a Virginia or DC. So Ahmed, you're going to go first.
Evan Stewart's a guy I really like. I remember watching him back in the spring. I know at 6 foot, 175 pounds, just feels like he plays so much bigger than that. One-on-one, does a really good job high pointing the ball. I think he's an easy mismatch, kind of with those ball skills, with the ability to create separation. Just a really dynamic player. Cornerback Will Johnson, he's a guy I really like. I think he's going to Michigan, already signed, 5-star prospect, signed very early in the cycle. So I think sometimes when you see those prospects that sign super early on, they kind of get overlooked. But I think this is a guy who plays fundamentally very well, very sound. He's very patient, 6'3", 190 pounds, very long. So when you kind of think of, obviously we're not mentioning Maryland, but when you think of Maryland having to go up against a guy like that, obviously a guy like Dante Demas, who's coming back next year, a guy like Will Johnson, just his sheer measurables and athleticism definitely make it tough. And then a guy like Dalen Everett, he actually visited Maryland way back when. His older brother, he signed with a service academy last year, but Dalen was able to get on campus, things like that, and he ended up, developing into a 5-star prospect. Played a senior year at IMG, signed to Georgia. He was committed to Clemson for the bulk of the cycle. So I think this is a guy, again, 6'1", 185 pounds, comes from a great family, 4.0 student. And I think he's a guy, like I said, with Will Jackson, I think he's a guy that definitely can get to the field early. Definitely probably get the 2 deep the first 2 years there. And definitely he's a guy from native from Virginia. So I think this is a guy I'm really high on, and someone I've been able to kind of get to know over these last couple of years. So I think he's going to be in the NFL in the next couple of years as well.
All right. For me, I'm going to start with a guy just outside the top 10 in Zach Rice. I did an analysis on him. I think this guy is going to be a wall on the offensive line for North Carolina. I mean, North Carolina, even though they had a little bit of a disappointing season, still able to pull off a really, really good class. And with a guy like Zach Rice, I think he's going to be in the 2 deep sooner rather than later. So I am very high on this kid. Second one for me, I'm looking at Luther Borden, not just because he signed with Missouri, but also because this guy is going to give corners in the SEC fits. He's going to give them fits. I'm really high on him. I cannot wait to see what he does for Missouri. And I mean, he's going to be on the field right away, probably going to be starting right away. This is going to be a kid you're going to want to watch. And then Jeremiah Alexander from Alabama, of course, signed with Alabama. And I really, really like this kid. He's got a great combination of both size and speed. I mean, if he did not sign with Alabama, he'd be in everybody's 2 deep right away. And he might still crack Alabama's 2 deep as a freshman. That's how talented I think he is. He's got to put on a little strength, but hey, that's just about every single defensive front 7 player out there. Really high on him. He's another guy I think we're going to see in the NFL in 3 years.
I would not disagree with that at all. Jeremiah is a really good pick.
All right, Ahmed, last thoughts.
Yeah, USC, the Lincoln Riley over at USC, I think is going to be very, very intriguing. I think for the last 10 years, mentally, I thought USC is just kind of like as a pretender. So I think kind of Lincoln Riley at USC, that's going to be a very interesting shift to see how those West Coast prospects respond. And then also Oklahoma, how they adjust. Clemson. I think there's a lot of coaching changes that are going to make this next recruiting cycle super, super intriguing. But like we said earlier, A&M really catches my eye. No surprise what you see Alabama, Ohio State do. So definitely a weird cycle, I would say that. But nonetheless, not too many surprises at the top.
All right, that was our video for the national side of the early signing period. Next video is on the Maryland side. Be sure to check that out. I'll see you guys then.